Well, thank you everybody for being here. This is a little info session about the first year broad Greece program. We're going to give a little overview of what the program is going to look like, talk about the application process, and then just definitely answer any questions all of you have as you go along. Like I said, if you're able to turn your camera on, that would be great. It'd be nice to see everybody. And then we'll just kind of start off with some introductions. I'm going to have Sean and Eunice introduce themselves, and then I'll go around and call on all the students and just when I call on you, just say who you are and maybe what you're thinking of majoring in here at DePaul, and then we'll get into things. But I'm Scott Ozorowski. I work in the study abroad office. I unfortunately will not be going to Greece with you, but I will be helping do all of the behind the scenes logistics to plan this program as your two program leaders do take the group to Greece. So Sean and Eunice, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Sean Kirkland. I am I'm a professor in the philosophy department, and my specialty is ancient Greek philosophy. So I'll be part of the leadership team for the course with Eunice.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eunice Amador. I'm an academic advisor in the College of LAS, and I am also joining you guys on your trip. So I'm very excited to get to know all of you, and yeah.
All right. And let's go around. I'll kind of give an order here. Let's go Isabella, then Mila, then Jaden. Oh, she's got in here. My name is Isa, first year theater arts major. No, it's all good. Being quiet on the train. Appreciative. All right, Mila, then Jaden.
Hi, I'm Mila. I'm a first year health sciences student.
Great. Jaden, you able to introduce yourself quickly? Or?
Oh, yes, I'm Jaden, and I'm a first year, and I'm majoring in computer science.
Excellent. All right, let's go Brandon, then Madison, and then Maya.
My name is Brandon. I'm doing business management with a minor in real estate.
Hi, I'm Madison. I'm a first year majoring in elementary education and minoring in creative writing.
Great.
Hello, I'm Mia, and I'm majoring in political science and international studies.
Thanks, Mia. And then Paige and Soleil.
Hi, I'm Paige. I'm majoring in entrepreneurship and minoring in theater studies, and I am a first year as well.
Hey, hi, I'm Soleil. I'm a first year and I'm majoring in psychology.
All right, excellent. Thank you, everybody. We may have some latecomers come in, and if so, we'll let people in as we come. But I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to get into a little presentation and just sort of talk through things. And if you have questions as you go along, please feel free to unmute and just ask a question, or you can throw something in the chat. But we'll also have time at the end to do questions as well. So whatever works for you. But yeah, this is the first year abroad Greece program, and we kind of did some introductions already. So you see Sean and Eunice are going to be the two people helping lead the program in spring break. I'm behind the scenes here in the study abroad office helping coordinate things. And I'm going to turn it over for the next chunk to Sean to talk a little bit about the course and then about the time abroad. So hit it, Sean.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you. So thanks everyone for making time for this session. I'm going to tell you a little bit about focal point seminars in general, and then a little bit about this focal point seminar, because this is sort of one of many. And then we'll talk a little bit about the trip that we'll take over the spring break and how it fits into the course of study. So first, it's just probably good to remember that this is, although the trip is amazing and a lot of fun, it's first of all an academically very serious class. It's a focal point seminar, and therefore it's functions as kind of a deep dive into a given subject matter for 10 weeks that every single DePaul student must take as part of their liberal studies or general education requirements. So your majors and your minors are there to train you in a specific discipline and maybe for a specific line of work, potentially. So if you're a business major or a psychology major or a computer science major, and already just in this group, there's kind of an amazing array of different specializations and different areas of study. But your liberal studies requirements, those courses are there to teach you how to be a human being, basically. a well-rounded person who knows things about the world, who can read challenging literature and poetry, who has confronted complex works of art, who's thought about thorny social, political, practical problems, and who can therefore think critically and critically follow a thread, entertain concepts, ask questions, and patiently search for satisfying solutions to problems. So our seminar focuses in on the culture and worldview of the ancient Greeks. And by the way, as Scott said, if anything kind of sparks your interest or your curiosity, just don't hesitate to unmute yourself and pipe up or put something in the chat and ask anything that you have a question about as I'm going.
And actually, I'm going to jump in, Sean, before
Yep.
you get going. One thing to mention, almost all students have to take this focal point seminar as part of your first year curriculum. There are a few majors that don't require it.
Okay.
Theater majors, music majors, some CDM majors, not all, the ones in the BFA program.
Okay.
But if any of you are in those majors, you still can do this first year program. You'll get experiential learning credit and elective credit instead of the focal point seminar credit. And then if any of you happen to be an honors student, honor students also don't require a focal point seminar, but we have a specific agreement with the honors program where each of these first year programs will knock out one of your honors requirements. So you will get an honors credit for doing this. So
That's great.
Even though there are a few groups of people that don't need a focal point seminar, all of you can do it. All of you can get credit for it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Go for it, Sean.
So our seminar is going to focus in on the culture and worldview of the ancient Greeks from about 750 to about 350 BCE. So the 3 millennia ago. And that's about a 350-year period of extraordinary philosophical, scientific, artistic, literary, and political accomplishment. During these centuries, the ancient Greeks invented, at least in the context of Western culture, they invented or came up with for the first time things like philosophy, geometry, astronomy, medicine, epic poetry, tragic and comedic dramatic poetry, and finally, rhetoric and democracy. So, and more importantly, even than that, they invented many of the most fundamental concepts that are still determining and working within the way that we all experience our world today and think about that world, question it, and even start imagining how we might want to change that world. Those basic Greek concepts are still at work in our minds, providing the filter through which we experience things and begin to critically think about them. And so, we want to just keep that in mind, that in some way we're still all at base, in many ways, ancient Greeks. So when we read the poetry of Homer and Sappho and Sophocles, when we read the philosophical works of Heraclitus and Plato, when we read the histories of Herodotus and Thucydides, when we view the art of Polyclitus and Phidias in our course, our investigations of these ancient Greek figures will also be a sort of journey of self-discovery. We'll be finding out the sources of our own way of seeing the world in a lot of different ways. So at the end of this rigorous course of study throughout the quarter, then over those 10 weeks of the winter quarter, we go to Athens and we visit where it all happened. So Scott, first slide. On our first day there, we begin tracing the path of the procession that launched the Pan-Athenaic festival, which took place every year during the ancient Greek period in celebration of the city's patron goddess, Athena. From the Kerameikos cemetery, so yeah, it's true, we do begin in the cemetery, but then it gets a lot more fun after that. So from the Kerameikos cemetery, located just outside the old city walls, to the Agora, Scott, slide, that is to say the market square at the center of the ancient city. Next slide, Scott. The next day, we will visit the Acropolis and the magnificent Parthenon, the center of Athenian religious life, and the most amazing temple in the Greek world, again, to the city's patron goddess, Athena. Next slide, Scott. And located just at the foot of the Acropolis, we will see the very next day the Theater of Dionysus, where the world's first tragedies and comedies were performed, where the works of Sophocles, Aeschylus and Euripides and Aristophanes, for instance, were performed for the very first time. And then we'll walk around to the other side of the Acropolis to the hill called the Pnyx. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but it is the site where ancient democracy was born. So in this place, Athenian orators addressed the world's first assembled democratic governing body from that pedestal right there. Okay, so next slide, Scott. Finally, we take 2 day trips during our stay in Athens. One to Eleusis, sometimes called Elefsis, about an hour bus ride northwest of Athens, where the initiation rites of the fascinating Greek mystery religion were performed. And next slide, Scott. To Delphi, where the Oracle of Apollo was located. People would come from all over the Greek world to ask the advice of the god, whose voice issued from a crevice in the native rock of that site, to be interpreted first by the priestess of Apollo, known as the Pythia, and then interpreted again by the priests of Apollo before a divine response was given to the petitioners. And then we return home, forever changed by our exposure to the genius of these ancient Greeks. That's our trip and our class.
All right. John, can you talk a little bit, and I can fill in some blanks too, about college year in Athens and kind of their role and staying there and what that will be like?
Yeah, so there's an institution that's been a part of Athens and higher education in Athens for a long time called College Year in Athens, and they've been a kind of site where universities and colleges from all over the world have sent their study abroad trips, either for entire terms or year-long stays or short-term stays like ours. And we'll be staying on their campus, which is just adjacent to that ancient agora site that I told you about that we'll walk to the very first day, the ancient marketplace. And from there, we'll be right in the very center of Athens. They have a dormitory or apartments that we'll be staying in, and they have a cafeteria and a number of institutional buildings. And they're very good at organizing the college students' experience of ancient Greece, or of Greece, and in our case of ancient Greek monuments in particular.
And we do have, as he mentioned, a program where you can spend an entire quarter there or longer. And so that is something where if you do this program and have a great experience, you might return back in a year or two and spend a whole quarter there, enjoy your classes. So
that's right. And one thing, Scott, I did want to mention, so I was teaching this class the spring of 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And so our class was canceled 1 week before we were getting on the plane to leave for Athens. It was really sad. But one of those students did eventually, 2 years later, sign up for that term-long study trip to Athens and stayed there for an entire quarter. And she wrote to me a number of times during that stay and sent pictures. And she made it happen, even though the pandemic kind of intervened. But
yeah. One thing I'm going to quickly mention, let me just kind of go back in the slides before I get into a few other things. We take some questions. So the class in Chicago is going to meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays in Lincoln Park, 2:40 to 4:10 p.m. So as you are putting together your winter quarter schedule, if you're going to be applying for this program and hoping to get accepted, you need to make sure not to have a class Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2:40 to 4:10, because that's when this class will happen. You cannot register yourself for this class. There's a block on that. What's going to happen is when you go through the application process, if you get accepted and move forward, we will register you in this class. So as you're getting together for your winter quarter schedule, you can kind of do one of two things. Either one, kind of leave some space in your schedule in the hopes that you're going to get into the program, or you might just want to register in another focal point seminar, just a standard one without study abroad as a backup. And then once you get accepted and you decide you're going to move forward, you can just drop that class and we'll add you into this one instead. I know that's a question that comes up often as people are starting to plan their winter quarter schedule, but make sure that you don't get anything that's Tuesday, Thursdays, 2:40 to 4:10. And that's kind of a good segue into me just talking about a few logistical things. So some of you in the room here have already started your applications, and some of you have actually even completed them already. So great if you have. If you haven't started or completed your application yet, make sure to do that in the next few weeks. November 1st is the deadline to apply. you just go to the First Year Abroad Greece page. There's a blue Apply Now button, and you click on that. And a simple questionnaire. It's just like 5 questions or so that just talk about why you want to do the program, how it fits into your interests. But take a little time and make sure you answer all those questions, and then you'll submit it. And then after that, once November 1st rolls around, Sean and Eunice are going to be contacting everyone who applied to do some brief group interviews. Now, this is not a high pressure situation. It's just a chance to get to know everybody. And typically what's going to happen is they'll be in small groups of 4 or 5 people, and just a chance to chat a little bit, get to know each other, for you to ask any questions as well. This is a program where we can take 20 students on the program. That's the maximum that can be in this class. And we may have more than 20 students who do apply. So it's important to, take some time in your application, make sure when those emails go out about the group interviews, sign up for a time slot right away, so that you can get that scheduled. And then after all of those group interviews are done, sometime in sort of mid-November, we will then send out acceptances to everybody who's been accepted to the program to let you know you've been accepted. If we have more people than 20 that apply, then you may get an email saying that we don't have a spot available, or that you're on a wait list. And if that's the case, you kind of hang tight and I'll be in touch. We typically do have spots open up from the wait list to let students on. Or we also will be in touch to let you know, hey, you're on a wait list for this program, but one of the other first year programs actually has some spots still. Would you like to be considered for that one instead? So just kind of have another program as a backup as well, just in case that happens. And it'd be good to know kind of what your backup options are. But if that happens, I'll be in touch. One good thing to know is we do have scholarship funding available. We have scholarship funding for all of our study abroad programs, and we have some special funding for these first year programs. You don't have to do anything special to apply for these. As long as you apply for the program by November 1st, you automatically get considered for the scholarships. They will range from the smallest scholarships are $1,000, which, even if you get the smallest scholarship, that's more than 1/3 of the cost of this program, which we're going to talk about in a minute, up to almost the full cost of the program. And we base those on your financial need, talking to the financial aid office, and your GPA. If you're brand new students to DePaul, which most of you are, we actually base it on your high school GPA and your financial status. And we do our best to try to award as much scholarship funding to as many students as we can who need it, to enable you to do the programs. Where we do have additional scholarships available throughout DePaul, and also like external national scholarships. If you go onto the DePaul website, there's a whole page of scholarship links that you can look at of other ones that you do have to actually apply for. But for our main study abroad scholarships, you don't have to do anything special. You'll automatically be considered. And what will happen is in mid-November, if you get accepted to the program, you're going to get an email that says, congratulations, you've been accepted. And then usually within a day or two, you'll get another email that lets you know if you get a scholarship, and if so, how much it's for. And then you've got usually about 2 weeks to decide if you want to move forward or not. And if you don't, no problem. There's no application fee. There's no commitment. If you decide not to, no problem. But then if you do, you commit to that and you click a little button, and then that's when we move forward and we get you registered in the class. In terms of the cost of the program is $2,700. It's one of our least expensive of the first year programs. It covers almost everything. It's your round trip airfare. It's all your accommodations. It is a bunch of your meals, all your breakfasts, almost all your lunches, and a few of your dinners. All the activities you do, excursions, transportation, your international health insurance, all of that is covered. So really the main things you need to pay for yourself outside of that are just some meals and snacks outside of what's included, and then just personal spending money and assorted other little things that you might need if you're going to have your cell phone plan enabled, things like that. But pretty much that $2,700 is pretty comprehensive to cover everything. You'll also be registered in 6 credit hours. It's actually 4 credit hours for the focal point seminar class. I'll actually go backwards here. And then another 2 credit hours for another course called LSP 250 that you'll see. The focal point seminar class, the 4 credits of that is done before you ever get on the plane. So you're going to be taking class winter quarter. You're going to have assignments, papers, things that happen with that. You'll get a grade on that as its own thing. But then you get an additional 2 credits for that week and a half that you're abroad, because there's going to be some other activities and assignments and participation in that. And that will be graded as well as an additional 2 credits for that study abroad experience. But there are no meetings for that. You're going to see that on your schedule. The focal point seminar on Tuesdays, Thursdays is what you meet for. That other 2 credit class is just your week and a half abroad. Yeah, and so that's kind of the main rundown. If you have questions, you can contact me about things having to do with the application process. Sean is there to answer anything about the actual course itself or the time abroad. The website has a lot of really good information on it, and I'll actually show you that right now real quickly. Let me bring that up for a moment. So if you go onto the website, let me share my screen again. If you haven't been on the website, all the information is here. There's information about the course. If any of you are an honors student, so it says here you'll get honors 105 credit for the course, but this is all the course information. Some information about travel. We actually have like a sample itinerary of what your days are going to look like, and then all the cost information is all on there as well. So yeah. So what questions do people have? And please, just unmute, throw something in the chat. We're here to answer questions about the course, the program, the application process, whatever you might be curious about. There can't be no questions at all. Yeah, what requirement does LSP 250 count toward? It's just elective credit. It's just going to be 2 additional elective credits. It won't knock out any other additional requirement, but it's just part of the class because it's all your time abroad. And I should say as well, in addition to all the itinerary of the things you're going to do every day, you're going to have some time free in the evenings to kind of explore Athens on your own. There's probably going to be one night where we've got some kind of like theater or music or cultural performance we're going to take the group to. But yeah, so it's, there'll be a pretty wide variety of things that you do and a little bit of downtime in between activities as well sometimes. What other questions? John, anything else? Go ahead, Madison.
On average, how many people would you say gets awarded one of the scholarships?
Yeah, good question. It's hard to say. It sort of depends, year to year and however many people apply. We try our best to award as many people as we can with some scholarship funding. I would say overall, probably about maybe a third of the people who apply we're able to give some scholarship funding to. Sometimes it's a little bit more than that. Sometimes it's a little less, but at least a solid third probably. And like I said, from those people who do get awarded, they will range anywhere from $1,000 up until almost the whole amount of the program, depending on the financial situation. And yes, 1,000 is the minimum for these first-year scholarships. So if you get a first-year abroad scholarship, it'll be at least $1,000. Other questions? Sean, anything else you can think of? Just that as we talk.
Kind of racking my brains. I don't know. Maybe. Well, I guess. I mean, one thing to just, I guess, mention is that I've taught this class a couple of times, and every time, and I have other colleagues who've taught a version of the first year study abroad class, and I think in every single case, that class, no matter whether they're studying in different colleges, different campuses, all kinds of different areas of interest, they become a real cohort as they go through the rest of their university experience. It's as you might imagine, it's an extremely kind of close bonding experience for them as they go through this class together, spend 10 weeks studying a subject matter really intensely, and then all fly to a different part of the world and have these 10 kind of pretty intense and pretty life-changing in a lot of ways days of experiences there in Athens. And it really does kind of fix them as a group for the rest of their time, I think. And so that is one thing to look forward to, I think, as maybe part of the experience that you might not kind of think to wonder about, but the aftermath of the class, I guess, as it were.
Yeah, that's great, Sean. We have about 50 of these short programs, these short study abroad programs that DePaul offers. There's like 7 first-year programs, but another 40-something programs that you could do at any point in your career. And yeah, the cool thing about doing it in your first year is not only do you bond as a group, but your first-year students, like you're going to see these people for 3 more years on campus. It's not like you're doing it as a junior and you start to make these friends and then people are graduating right away. You've got a great group of people that you're going to get really close to. And lots of the students who do these first year programs end up finding roommate, they end up rooming with people the next year, and who knows, the kind of friendships.
Yeah, that's right.
One thing Alex put in the chat, can you appeal if you don't get a scholarship? Yes, there is a scholarship appeal process. We've got a limited amount of funding for scholarship appeals. So that is something that there is a process where you can do, and that's on our website, on our scholarship page, a link to how to do that. Sean, we have a question from Brandon about prior knowledge from Greek history and whether that's required.
Yeah, no, you don't really need any prior knowledge. You really shouldn't for any focal point class. It's meant to be it's meant to be distinct, I think, I wasn't there when they planned the curriculum, but I imagine it's meant to be distinct from the other kinds of classes you all are generally taking as freshman students, which tend to be kind of broad introductory seminars, just as a general rule. And I think this class is supposed to be kind of a deep dive into a given subject matter, whatever focal point class you take. But it is meant to be something that you could enter into without any prior knowledge or exposure to. The only thing you really need to bring to this class, but this really goes for any college class, is intellectual curiosity. Like, you need to be intellectually curious about thinking about these things. But if you have that, then you'll thrive.
Kind of like the Discover and Explore classes in the fall. There were 100 of them to choose from. You saw the whole list of them. You picked a topic that sounded interesting, and that's the one you did. The same thing happens for these focal point seminars. But throughout the winter and spring quarter, there will be about 100 of those as well. And we have just added a study abroad component to 7 of them. So, any other questions? All right. Well, if anyone has specific, oh wait, here we go. Alex, will the appeal show up on the website once you find out? If you did not get a scholarship and you want to appeal it, there's actually a link already on the scholarship website. You can go to the study abroad page, and there's information there that shows you a link to that scholarship appeal process. So you wouldn't fill that out yet. Wait and see if you get a scholarship or not. But if you didn't, then you can fill that out. But it's right there on the scholarship page on our website right now. So. All right, any other questions? And if people do have individual questions, you can stick around too. We'll stay around for a few minutes if there's kind of something more individual you want to ask. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. For those of you, like I said, who have not finished your application, please make sure to do that in the next couple of weeks. And then once you do, be on the lookout for an email from Sean and Eunice around November 1st and sign up for those time slots. And we're excited that you're considering the program. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good weekend.